Hi, I'm Debbie House, editor of Retail TouchPoints, and I'm here at the NRF 100th National Convention with Rob Garf, who's a retail strategy leader for IBM Services Group. Rob, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Debbie?
I'm doing great. You have the benefit of being one of the people that I'm talking to last at the end of this event, and one of the first questions that I'm asking people is, what are your impressions so far? So it was kind of tough on people yesterday morning.
Absolutely.
When the event first started, but I think you've had a pretty good chance to see what's going on, and did this show meet your expectations? And
Yeah, so Debbie, the show certainly exceeded my expectations. I feel like there's an energy, there's a buzz that hasn't been felt in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's really turned from browsing, where retail executives were hanging out, learning from peers, checking out the different vendors that are in the space, but not a real intent to purchase. And now the budgets have opened up a little bit, strategic plans have been solidified, and there's this sense of urgency around what solutions are out there to help me become competitive and really leapfrog the competition.
Right. Yeah, some really nice, hopeful optimism this year.
Absolutely.
Growing a little bit last year, much better than the year before that.
That's
sure.
right. You know what, Debbie? It starts with the consumer sentiment. We surveyed 30,000 consumers around the world, and there really is this sense of safety, especially around their income, which wasn't felt over the last couple of years. So there's this sense that things are not necessarily returning to pre-recession spending, but the consumers are back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because there's some talk of in some ways consumers are tired of not spending, and is that part of the equation? And is this is there going to be a dip after they get tired of spending after being tired of not spending, or are we really on the upswing? Because the economic numbers are still shaky.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the question we get consistently asked by our clients is, are consumers going to back to pre-recessionary spending? And the answer is, right now, there's not an indication that's going to happen. There's still, again, while there's some safety in the income numbers and actually growth in the income over the next couple of years, there's still that sentiment that consumers want to find things on sale, they may delay the purchases, and they're doing a lot of competitive shopping. So frugal is still chic, and we haven't hit that real sense of total positive, but it's on the right path, certainly.
Terrific. So as far as IBM is concerned, where are you finding the most interest from retailers who you're meeting with, or who are just coming to the booth to look around? What are they most interested in learning about?
Yeah, so again, if you go back to the research, which speaks to the consumers and their shopping patterns, the use of technology, it does revolve around a couple of things. First of all, technology is part of the shopping process, is an absolute given. We have this category called the instrumented consumer. These are customers, people who embrace and utilize 2 or more technologies as part of the shopping experience, in addition to the physical store. And that's about 50% of the universe, actually. So half of the consumers are embracing at least 2 technologies. The other pieces are attitudes have shifted, the influence, who they're listening to, and what information they're distilling to make purchase decisions has changed, and lastly, the demographics has changed. So if you take all of that and look into the data, it says that retailers, and this is proven by what questions we're getting, inquiries we're finding from our retail clients, is it's around listening and learning from the customers, really breaking through the noise, and then educating themselves, thinking about how to react to that noise, distilling it, understanding what to act on, and lastly is empowering the customer. We have one client who talks about the notion of changing from customer relationship management to customers managing the relationship, so really taking back that control. So there are certainly specific technologies, and we've made big investments over the last year to really take advantage of those consumers as that shopping behavior has shifted.
Okay, terrific.
But I can talk more about that.
You can talk more about that. So, along that same line, where do you see retailers investing in the types of technologies and implementations in the coming year? I mean, where do you see them focusing their budgets?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, mobile and social have been a huge buzz in the show. Those are the 2 words that you hear kind of echoed across the hallway throughout. But when we think about the shopping experience and kind of the shopping behavior I talked about before, another overarching theme that we saw was that the shopping experience has become more fragmented, and it's a series of moments. In the past, the consumer would go into the physical store, touch, feel, browse, research, purchase, walk out with the product or service. In this case, what we're seeing now, these moments span across different touch points and over the course of time. So what we're doing and where we're investing is relative to the shopping experience is really knitting together those touch points from the time the consumer wants to do some research and discovery, perhaps on their mobile device, and then go into the store and get some assisted selling, or through a kiosk, or through the store associate who needs to be more empowered before. We are, again, knitting together a series of technologies to make that happen. Everything from what we've owned and operated for many years around WebSphere Commerce and the customer interaction platform that we have there, bringing together Unica around the campaigns and promotion optimization, to SPS on the predictive analytics, and core metrics so we can analyze all of this. So we're seeing a big buzz, not around these point solutions that I just mentioned, but an overall solution to, like I said, really knit together that shopping experience.
And do you find that customers are asking for it, or is there more of an education on your end to bring them around?
Yeah, so I think we've gone beyond the point of inflection of education. Some in the cases, there's education that needs to happen throughout the larger importance of the organization, but by and large, the people that are here, the senior executives that we're talking to, they get it. The consumer information certainly helps support it. Now the question is, how do you, in the words of one of my clients, move away from project-itis? Nobody's, lagging of any ideas. A lot of executives do management by magazine and come back from these shows and come up with ideas. The idea is, how do you really put together an overall plan and really think about executing that plan with business benefits associated with each deployment?
Right, and speaking of which, so asking about ROI is one of the things that I'm sure you're hearing from a lot of us. So we're talking about implementations, we're talking about an enterprise-wide strategy. Whatever I'm going to do, I need a quick ROI.
That's right, that's right. So in the past it was, I'm going to spend $10 million on a point of sale refresh, or I'm going to spend $5 million in integrating my online operation to my store operation. That might be part of the equation, but it's, I'm looking for this return, whether it's larger market basket, larger market share, whatever those metrics are. And we're working closely, large-scale merchandising initiatives happening right now, where we're helping prioritize these investments based on the return that they'll see. And if anything else, what this allows the retail organization to do is hold people accountable for the investments and help prioritize what those investments should look like.
And that's important. So I just want to ask you one more question, and we've talked about the economy a little bit. How has IBM strategized through this recessionary period, and how has that worked for you?
Yeah, so I would say there's really two perspectives on how IBM has I would say responded to the economic climate and the buying patterns. First of all, we're more solution orientated. So as I talked about before, while we will sell you a point solution and show you the value of doing campaign management with Unica, we'll tell the whole story on how that fits in to an overall solution. And thinking about, in my case of spending a lot of time on the customer outcomes, or more broadly, business outcomes attached to that solution. And the other piece would say is really combining our services organization, Global Business Services, with our other, what we call brands, whether that's software or infrastructure, or the large-scale investment we're making around business analytics and optimization, so that we can provide a full spectrum of capabilities and become, I know it's overused, but a one-stop shop, a real partner. And those are the types of discussions that we could talk about conceptually in years past, but because of the big investments we're making on the software side, because of the big investments we're making on the people and infrastructure and software for that matter on the business analytics side, we really do have a pretty fairly comprehensive solution.
And with the research to back it up, you could bring that whole customer relationship and the multi-channel aspect of retail together.
And what I like about the consumer research, I come from the research world, and it's not us pontificating on top of a mountain, but we're listening, we have our finger on the pulse of the consumer, which everybody talks about customer centricity. In order to get there, really the first step is truly understanding that customer and then putting the capabilities in place to fulfill those expectations.
Exactly. Sounds like you're well on the way.
We hope so.
I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Debbie. Always a pleasure.
Enjoy the short rest of the show, and thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.